For much of 2025, McLaren looked untouchable. Their MCL39 was the benchmark car, winning 7 of the first 10 races and cruising towards another Constructors Championship. On paper, it was dominance, but beneath the surface, a dangerous gamble was already unfolding, one that would only reveal its consequences as Formula One marched towards 2026. Because while McLaren chose to switch off development early and focus everything on the future, Red Bull did the opposite. They kept pushing, kept upgrading, and kept extracting performance right until the final races. And now, as Red Bull unveils its next-generation car under the 2026 regulations, McLaren boss Zak Brown has admitted something few championship-winning teams ever do: genuine concern. Subscribe now because this video explains why McLaren's biggest risk in years could either define a golden era or hand Red Bull total control of the 2026 season. To understand why McLaren now finds itself uneasy heading into 2026, we need to rewind to the moment they made one of the boldest strategic calls of the ground effect era. At the height of their dominance in 2025, McLaren chose to stop developing their championship-winning MCL39, not because they were struggling, but precisely because they were winning. 7 victories in the first 10 races gave them a cushion that allowed the team to think beyond the present. While rivals chased lap time, McLaren chased the future. From a technical standpoint, the decision was ruthless but logical. Engineering director Neil Haldy confirmed that upgrades had reached the stage of diminishing returns. 30 milliseconds was considered a good gain, a clear signal that the concept was already close to its limit. Continuing development would have consumed precious wind tunnel hours, CFD runs, and engineering manpower that could instead be redirected toward the most disruptive regulation change Formula One has seen in over a decade. Because 2026 is not an evolution, it is a reset. Active aerodynamics, new power units, revised energy deployment, and a completely different aerodynamic philosophy mean that lessons from 2025 carry far less value than teams might hope. McLaren believed that arriving early to this new battlefield, with more data, more iterations, and fewer compromises, would outweigh the short-term cost of losing race-winning pace late in 2025. But Red Bull never played along. While McLaren switched off development, Red Bull doubled down. The RB21 continued to receive updates deep into the season, allowing Max Verstappen to claw back performance just when McLaren's advantage began to evaporate. That decision alone transformed what should have been a comfortable drivers' championship into a last-race shootout, decided by just 2 points. And this is where the strategic tension truly begins. Red Bull's continued development may have cost them time on the 2026 project, but it also allowed them to refine operational execution, validate aerodynamic philosophies, and maintain competitive sharpness until the very end. McLaren, by contrast, accepted visible performance decline in exchange for theoretical future gains. Zak Brown now openly admits that McLaren is in a waiting game, waiting to see whether that theoretical advantage materializes or whether Red Bull's relentless development culture once again proves decisive. What amplifies McLaren's anxiety is the Red Bull-Ford partnership. Inside the paddock, there is growing belief that Red Bull's power unit program has been significantly underestimated. The combination of Red Bull powertrain's infrastructure and Ford's technical resources could prove devastatingly effective under the new hybrid rules. And, unlike rivals, Red Bull enters 2026 with a proven system built around one driver, Max Verstappen. McLaren's internal situation is far more complex. Yes, they secured a second consecutive Constructors Championship. Yes, Lando Norris finally became a world champion. But the margin was painfully thin, and the journey exposed weaknesses that cannot be ignored. Operational errors, from the Las Vegas double disqualification to the Qatar safety car misjudgment, reopened the door for Verstappen at critical moments. Add slow pit stops, a technical retirement in Zandvoort, and internal tension around team orders, and the picture becomes clear. McLaren were fast, but not flawless. Zak Brown's response to this has been brutally honest. In his message to fans, Brown acknowledged mistakes without deflection. He framed 2025 not as a perfect season, but as a stress test, one that revealed where McLaren still needs to grow. According to Brown, these errors forced the team to mature faster, communicate better, and respond under genuine championship pressure. And that may be McLaren's greatest hope for 26. Because while technical regulations reset performance, psychological strength carries over. The experience of managing a tight title fight, handling internal rivalry, and surviving external pressure could give McLaren an edge that no wind tunnel can replicate. Then there's Oscar Piastri. While Norris grabbed headlines, Piastri quietly emerged as one of the most complete drivers on the grid. Leading the championship during parts of 2025, he demonstrated racecraft, composure, and adaptability far beyond his experience level. Zak Brown's praise was not symbolic, it was strategic. McLaren knows that entering a regulation reset with two genuine title contenders is both a blessing and a risk. On one hand, it gives them depth, flexibility, and the confidence that if one driver falters, the other can carry the fight. On the other, it introduces a level of internal complexity that Red Bull simply does not have to deal with. When both drivers believe they are championship material, every strategic call becomes heavier. Every pit stop, every upgrade package, every race strategy has the potential to create tension. In 2025, McLaren managed that balance just well enough to survive. In 2026, with a complete technical reset and far less performance certainty, that balance becomes even more fragile. Managing two ambitions in a season where margins will be microscopic is one of the hardest tasks in modern Formula One. Red Bull's structure, by comparison, is brutally simple and ruthlessly effective. Everything orbits Verstappen. Development direction, strategy decisions, and even long-term planning are built around maximizing the performance of one driver. That clarity creates efficiency. There is no debate about priority, no internal competition for political leverage, and no confusion about where resources should be aimed. It is a model that has delivered multiple championships and one that becomes even more powerful in an era of technical uncertainty. When the regulations reset, teams that know exactly who they are building for often adapt faster than teams that must keep multiple stars equally satisfied. For McLaren, this means that internal harmony will be tested like never before. Norris arrives as a world champion, carrying confidence, authority, and the natural expectation of leadership. Piastri arrives as the quiet force, the driver whose performances increasingly suggest he could be the future of the team. Neither will want to play a secondary role in a brand new era. And that brings us back to the central question. McLaren sacrificed certainty for potential. They gave up late-season momentum in 25 to invest everything in an unknown future. Red Bull sacrificed future preparation for present pressure. They stayed in the fight, refined their racecraft, and kept their competitive instincts razor-sharp. Both approaches are defensible. Both carry enormous risk. And both could define the next era of Formula One. If McLaren arrive in 2026 with a car that immediately sets the standard, their gamble will be remembered as visionary. They will be seen as the team that understood the reset before anyone else and acted without fear. But if they arrive on the back foot, even slightly, the narrative flips. Their early switch of focus becomes a strategic miscalculation that handed Red Bull psychological and operational superiority. As the 2026 regulations draw closer, one thing is undeniable: McLaren's dominance at the end of the ground effect era guarantees nothing. History shows that regulation resets rarely reward recent champions. They reward preparation, clarity, and adaptability. And for the first time in years, even Zak Brown admits that McLaren does not control the narrative. They have made their choice. Now they must live with it. They can only wait and hope they chose correctly. So what do you think? Did McLaren play this perfectly, or did they open the door to Red Bull's revenge? Will the Norris-Piastri partnership defend their dominance in the new era? Or will Verstappen return with Ford power and reclaim control of Formula One? Give your opinion in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss other interesting videos from us.